But then actually, when you stop and think about it, talking about the budget and stuff before, you can spend, when you get to these sort of big events, you've got these huge palatial stands, 150 grand, stupid money. But then there's me wandering past in an inflatable dinosaur outfit.
When you've been involved in the marketing industry as long as I have, there are a number of topics that crop up over and over again. Lack of resources limiting what we can do, difficulty targeting decision makers, and the most common topic, what to do on a limited budget. I believe regardless of the budget, you can still make your marketing work for you, as long as you're realistic with your expectations. Entering the market on a small budget and expecting to achieve the reach of a tech giant will only lead to disappointment. But this doesn't mean you can't achieve goals that are realistic to your size and scale. You just need to work that little bit harder at the start to understand your market, the most efficient channels, and of course, be creative. One company within construction that does this particularly well, and you could say has been bootstrapping their marketing since they started, is SymTerra. I've mentioned them before on the podcast because they're actually one of my faves when discussing construction within the technology industry. Yeah, true. I'm also a fan of how they go about their marketing. Everyone seems to get stuck in. It's fun, engaging, doesn't take itself too seriously, always has a CTA, call to action, and is so typically them. From dinosaurs at events to using ChatGPT to create fictional rage on a construction site. Their marketing is simple, but is it effective? The only way to find this out is to look internally. And who better to talk us through this and what SymTerra are doing currently is Garrett Chamberlain, operations manager who was behind one post that generated 8.9 views and 500,000 likes on YouTube Shorts. But this kind of virality doesn't equal success. Or does it? Since launching in March 2021, SymTerra has built a client portfolio that includes £5 billion worth of construction and infrastructure projects, from Thames Water to Transport for London, and closed its 1.7 million seed investment round in 2022. Garrett's background is unique, transitioning from traffic marshal to entrepreneur, swapping construction sites for websites. And I promise I did not write this. Throughout this journey, Garrett has gained hands-on experience, honing his skills in health, safety, quality, and environmental management. But instead of taking a cushy little number in that field, he decided to make a move and join SymTerra as a founding team member and operations manager, bringing his expertise and unique perspective to the tech industry. Garrett, welcome. And did I miss anything from that intro?
No. That was very flattering, very strange to sort of hear it as a yeah. I've often heard people on your on this show and say about how strange it is to sort of hear spoke about when he's sitting in my ear. But yeah, terribly flattering. But no, that's I think that's it. It's very good. Thanks for having me along. That was very nice. Great way to start. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. So I'm just going to get straight into it. Bit of a humbling question, really, to start. But how does a health and safety advisor, if you like, find his way into, in my opinion, one of the most exciting tech startups in construction at the moment?
Oh, brilliant! Well, it's a funny old one. I started years ago. Funny, we were talking off air about how like construction runs in the family type thing, and for me, it wasn't that way. My old man was he used to work on the film sets making animatronics and puppets and stuff for like big films for like Labyrinth and bits and pieces like that, and he he left that and became a cab driver. And my mum, she was working uptown for a lawyer's firm for PwC. So we had no sort of like direct link into the industry. And what happened was I left school and went to be a chef because I got inspiration from my nan and a few other people. And I thought, I could do the chefing for a while. So managed to get an apprenticeship as being a chef, and yeah, that was grand. And then I really wanted to work on site because around that time, the Olympics had just been announced. They just said that we're going to build this huge project, the Olympics coming to London, and it was in my backyard. So because I grew up in East Ham. And obviously, Newham was part of the boroughs that were obviously going to be built on. So we thought, oh, it's great. This is perfect time. We'll get a start on site and go and do that. And it was really hard for me to get the foot in the door because it didn't know anybody. It didn't have anybody to sort of say, oh, can you get us a start? Can you get us this? And it was my mum actually who. She reached out to our local MP. Funny enough, he was great. He managed to introduce us to a guy, and yeah, I went one day from chopping onions in a kitchen to my first sort of start as I remember one of the first jobs I had was traffic marshal for McGee's. That was a mad old transition. And, yeah, it was really interesting. I think McGee's was a great place to start because they were working on. I didn't go straight to the Olympics. I went with McGee's, and they were knocking down buildings for the Crossrail. And I remember one of the jobs I was on was for Tottenham Court Road, and my brother was working. Managed to get my brother a job as well, and the two of us running around the old buildings in Tottenham Court Road and pulling them down. It was absolutely fantastic. It was just I loved it. Absolutely loved working on site. I really, really did. And I suppose my big sort of break came when I was introduced to a guy called Tom Story, and Tom Story was part of. He was working for Lendlease at the time. On the Athletes Village, and I managed to get an introduction on there. And then was put onto another apprenticeship because, I was put on as a formwork apprentice, and which was funny because I'm not fantastic with my hands, so to speak, and that sounds really, really strange to say, but I remember one of the first starts I got was. My foreman was a guy called Pat Heston, and I was sort of like blagging it as a chippy. Yeah, I've got to do this, do that. And he come up to me and he said, "Look, put that down. Put that down. You're going to do yourself more harm than good there." And so he pointed me off. He said, "Go and get away. Go and sit in the stores." Type thing. And that was great. That was actually the making of us there, really, because that was on the Olympics, and I was in the stores with a guy called Mick McGinty, and we just learned everything from him. Learned everything. Really, just loved it on that job. Absolutely loved it. I mean, you think the Olympics when it was in full swing, there was hundreds of cranes. You could just walk up, and I remember every day you get to the edge of site, and there's just hundreds and thousands of people going, and that sense where everybody's just mucking in, getting stuck in, cranes everywhere, just the logistics, the everything. I was just, this is amazing. I absolutely loved it there. I really, really did. Managed to get an award for the apprentice of the project,
Cool.
which was really cool, yeah. And then managed to get on with my first company, which was Terrain. So they took me on the books, and yeah, just absolutely loved it. Started moving into more logistics and sort of like assistant site manager type roles. And then that's where I sort of got my first keen interest in health and safety, because I remember the health and safety advisors, especially on the Olympics, they come to the job, and everybody's so scared of them, like, oh no, it's this and that,
Mhm.
and I always got on really well with the health and safety advisors, because I had a keen interest in it. I
Mm.
really did enjoy the health and safety side of it. As weird as it sounds, a lot of people, they sort of they bulk against that, and from
Mm.
ever since then, if I introduce myself as a health and safety advisor, you always get one comment like, "Oh no, not you lot, no, no."
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really good. So I worked for them for a while. We did some fantastic jobs working on. We worked on a massive job after we finished the Olympics. We went to Cambridge, done a really interesting one for Cambridge University. I'll never forget, we poured this slab. It was one of the biggest pours in the country at the time, and the bottom mat and the top mat, the chairs were as tall as they were taller than me. You could walk through the middle of the slab. It was
Mhm.
unbelievable. Really, really interesting, and just fell in love with the team and everything. And I really sort of, because with formwork, groundworks, and concrete frames, you have to. There's no especially if you're pouring concrete. There's no just like, all right, let's just stop this now and catch up with it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Once you start pouring, you have to keep going, and that sense of teamwork and everybody. I absolutely loved it. Really, really did. And there's people say that you've got to be absolutely mad to work on site and jobs like that. I suppose I was a little bit mad, but it was just absolutely really relished it. And as I say, was with them for quite a while, and then moved to another company called Anderson Construction. Got a huge amount of time for them. They really were really instrumental for my career, because when I joined Anderson, they really took the time to teach us. And actually, it was them where I got my first break into health and safety. They actually trained me up to be a health and safety advisor.
Okay.
Massively, huge sort of respect for them. And then worked for a good number of years, sort of cutting my teeth in health and safety. Um, and in 2020, obviously the COVID hit, and I was let go, which was gutting at the time, but actually it turns out it sort of led me on the path to SymTerra.
Yeah.
Because I left Anderson, didn't know what to do, and then started doing my own sort of stuff, working for myself. Thought I'd try that, and then managed to fall into a job just up the road called Barking Riverside, massive project. And funny enough, there was a chap on there who was my line manager, a
Mm.
guy called David, and we'd worked together years ago on a job, or he was the health and safety advisor on a job. And we got on really, really well. So it was great. They say that construction is a small world, and that's definitely my experience, because you do see the same sort of faces, and
Yeah.
that's why it's always really important to make a good impression on people. And if you ever leave anywhere, never slam the door. Try and be as helpful as you can, and that sort of hit me in good stead, really. And when I got to Barking Riverside, that's where I first came across SymTerra. They were
Mhm.
using this, and I never had any sort of experience with any sort of construction tech. I think the closest I ever came was A-Site. I don't know if you know A-Site.
Yeah.
A-Site, a mammoth document management type thing. That's all I'd ever seen. And
Mm.
obviously the like clocking in stuff on site, but I never really paid much attention
Yeah.
to sort of to construction tech. And that's where I met Sarah, who's obviously our MD. And yeah, as you said in your intro, I was Sarah put an offer on the table, or approached us to join SymTerra, and massively intrigued, you know, because it's what I saw with SymTerra is that, you know, it's I don't want to say anything like a bit cheesy, like, oh, it's the future or anything like that. But it was just, I remember getting the offer or coming to sit with have a chat with John and Sarah. And it was that crossroad moment where I could carry on as I am at BRL. Great job, great people. Absolutely loved it at Barking Riverside. And sort of have that job for you know, for many years to come, or try something new. I'm a big believer in you've got to take the chances while you can, because you never know. You know,
Yeah.
you might go a few years down the line and you know and regret it,
Yeah.
and absolutely regret it. So I did. It was a big jump, another big jump, really, because you know, we've been on site for so long, and sort of in that way, of that mindset of swearing, you know, in the office, or you know what I mean, and just that sort of rowdy atmosphere. And then my sort of first day at SymTerra, I'm there. There's, there's a dog in the office. There's a nice restaurant downstairs. I thought, what is going on here? You know, what is going on here? And
Yeah.
I felt like a bit like a fish out of water, to be honest with you. You know, and I think in time, and I've been a little bit plagued with this for a lot of my career, of that, like, imposter syndrome. Like, I shouldn't be here. What is? And I did think for the first couple of months, I did think they're having me on. You know, Sarah and John are just going to go. Do you know what, Garrett? Thanks for that, but it's, you know, get your stuff, get back there. You don't belong here, mate. And
Yeah.
it was interesting, really, really interesting. Just to sit with my own thoughts and feelings about it was very interesting, because
I bet.
you know, it was yeah, it was a bit of a wild ride, but yeah, I absolutely love it here at SymTerra. It's
Brilliant.
I wouldn't change it for the world.
That's cool. So that's like really, really interesting. I think for people listening, it's so, I don't want to say the word impressive, because I don't think that's 100% correct, but it's just it just shows, like, within construction, how, like you say, you take the chances, or you see where you want to go, or you see an opportunity, and it's like understanding it and going for it. It's so diverse, and there's so many different options available, that it's like you don't know where, or potentially you don't know where it's going to end up. So, you know, fair play for doing all the steps, you know, you've done to, I'm not even going to say get where you are today, because it seems like you've loved every single part of it. So it's
Yeah,
not like, you know, it's been a chore and it's arduous, and you know, oh, it's terrible this, and then I moved there and it didn't quite fit, and so it just seems like that natural progression, and then a big leap, and like you are at SymTerra now,
yeah,
which is great. Um,
yeah.
the one thing before we move on, just in a nutshell, in like 2 or 3 sentences, could you just explain what SymTerra does? Because then I think that'll fill in some
Yeah,
blanks for some people with some topics we've got coming
yeah,
up.
of course, yeah. So SymTerra, we are a communication platform built for teams on the ground. The idea of SymTerra is that it's simple tech for teams to use, and it's a great way of record keeping. And it's just a really easy bit of tech, and I say it's simple. As you can see my strap line, well, you can't hear it at home, but snap, tap, and go. The idea is that it's simple tech for teams to use to evidence their works whilst out on site, to fill in paperwork, and just yeah, it's just a simple tech. The
Yeah.
simple tech that I think that's the crux of it for me, because as I you know, meeting on board teams all the time,
Hmm.
it's the speed and simplicity of SymTerra that makes it so appealing for everybody. So
Okay.
it's yeah, digitizing your paperwork.
Fantastic. So before we get on to the marketing, which I want to get into quite quickly, I just want to understand the almost the sell, right? So if you look at the entire construction industry, which I've tried to map out on various occasions. I calculated there's about 20 different stakeholder categories that can be required on one single project, from conception to actually building it and beyond. And that doesn't include like subcategories like engineers, regulatory bodies, compliance, subcontractors, health and safety. Like, the lists are practically endless on the site, as you'll know, and you'll testify, particularly with the Olympics. But if there's one change in that supply chain, if somebody changes how they do something or what they do, it can have a huge ripple effect right through the entire industry, the entire project, or the people that are involved in that. And with technology, that can be particularly tricky because not everybody's up to speed, and some people are using different systems and loads of different things like that. So how do you, because you were talking about onboarding just then, but how do you convince those prior to that, above, below, and right across the supply chain that like this particular solution will fit in, and it'll be less hassle than what they've currently got going on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you say, construction is a funny place, because I think that each industry, or each sector, well, even within the whole of the industry, they all have their own particular way of working, or their own particular definitions of things, which I always think is quite the funniest thing, But they all have their own set way, and that can obviously, when you're on sort of large projects and large jobs and stuff, that can obviously be quite haphazard, and it's usually just dictated by the top of the tree. So if the main contractor says we're all doing this, then everybody falls in line, and sometimes to their own detriment. They'll fall in line, they'll jump in, they'll get these big subscriptions, and they'll try to adhere to the requirements of whoever's at the top of the tree. But it's funny because what we believe massively at SymTerra is that whatever way that you record, or whatever way that you're capturing your work or evidencing your work, it shouldn't be ring fenced and on a particular way. And what I mean by that is that there's some software out there that if you take a record or something like, I've done X, Y, and Z, it's almost unreadable, or just sort of it's stuck on that one platform. But what we believe is that we're a big advocate of sharing information, playing well with others, having a system where you can get everybody on the same page. And sometimes, especially when you're having new conversations with companies, you obviously, the first barrier is that everybody, like, I do this my set way, it's this way, it's that way, it's that way. So trying to get them to think about, possibly doing it like this, and you sit down with them, and before you even get to the table, they've not really looked at your software. They've decided that it has to do this in this way, which can be a massive barrier, because one of the other things that I've run into quite a few times is that people have their own set assumptions for the software, and then they won't move from it. So what we have to do is we have to find that one piece, their one common problem, and then start from there. So if it's a particular piece of paperwork that the lads are not filling in, then we just turn that form into an easy form. The lads can fill it out on their phone, and then you win them over, because they see that, actually this is quite easy. And then you start to build up trust, and you say, we can do this, we can do that. But it's that the common thing is really just is making it nice and easy. And I think once you get them with that and show them how easy it is, you are on to winning, because people are generally quite skeptical of tech. And I think a lot of that is because they've been burned in the past, and I've seen it many a time. You'll have a really slick salesman who come in and say, you've got to have this, you've got to have that, and then they lock companies in for a contract that's 3 to 5 years, and then they actually get to site and try using it, and they've just got this moody tablet, and it just doesn't work, and it doesn't serve them. So then when we come to the table, we come into the conversation, everybody's back's a little bit up because of these bad experiences they've had in the past.
Yeah.
And I think our niche is that, obviously we have myself, John, Sarah, all come from the industry, so we can speak in their language, so to speak. Obviously, John and Sarah are much more articulate than me. Not doing myself a disservice or anything, but they've worked on these mega projects, worked for big companies like that. And then I take the normal people, the rest, but on just, and that's one of my key roles is to talk to the team, speak to the team, show them that it's not difficult. It's nothing to be scared of, and if you can win people on board like that, then, it's much of the better. And I think it's trying to show people there is a different way, because construction particularly, they've done things in this set way for so long that sometimes it is difficult to get your foot in the door. But once you do, and they show, you can show them the benefit of a new way of working, then it's absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I can imagine, and I can understand that kind of two-step approach. And so some of the things you've said there, multiple guests have said in terms of showing someone the software, how easy it is to use, and I get it now, I understand that, and being that. We always hear that construction's very traditional, although I think that is changing, but it needs to change on the ground as much as it does in offices or high above. And that's no disrespect to anybody that works on a site. In fact, it's advocating their skills and abilities and specialisms, and the fact they just want to get on with the job, and they don't want this technology messing up what they're doing. And until they find out that it makes their lives a lot easier. So I get that, and the fact that you've got this tandem thing, you got Sarah and John who are like talking to the people that like implement it, and then you're talking to like how you onboard and actually utilize it, which is really cool. Before we get to that, I'd like to step into marketing, and more the marketing communications and your output. So in 2021, a CMO survey reported that B2B companies that trying to sell a service, they spend around 15% of their revenue on marketing. But if you look at this from an industry perspective, mining and construction, in that industry, they spend 3% of revenue. So we're all already behind. And you're probably thinking 3%, I'd love 3%. But I truly believe that you don't necessarily need a huge budget to have successful communications and build that brand awareness in an industry. It helps. It can happen quicker. But if you do the right things at the right time in the right places to the right people, you'll have a huge impact. So take that 3%, and I imagine for a startup, particularly a tech startup, particularly in construction, that 3% is you might not even be close to 3%. So what I'm trying to get at is that you're practically bootstrapping your marketing. But what's your approach to it? Because before you answer that, I feel that, and this sounds like I'm blowing smoke here, but I'm not. But I feel that your approach is unique. It's true to your brand. It's always on point. It always does what it needs to, and it sticks out like a sore thumb because it is different. So how do you get to that? Take me to like where it starts right through to it's out there, and what do you do once it's out there?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for your kind words. I think those figures, they're really no surprise, obviously, to me. And I think even before I'd landed in this world, they wouldn't have been a surprise either, because it's a very much an industry that is word of mouth. Word of mouth is a massive thing. And I think when I first joined SymTerra, I had no idea that I would be sort of have such a big or input towards the marketing. And I think that our first sort of dip into that was when we went to our first event, and there was an idea or just said as a bit of a joke in the office, like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we dressed up as a dinosaur in an inflatable dinosaur outfit? And I thought, that's mad. That is absolutely mad. But then actually, when you stop and think about it, talking about the budget and stuff before, you could spend, when you get to these sort of big events, you've got these huge palatial stands, 150 grand, stupid money. But then there's me wandering past in an inflatable dinosaur outfit. Now, they're not going to remember the big palatial stands, but they'll remember me walking up to that George fella off of the Amazing Spaces show saying, "Here, can I have a photo?" Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll remember stuff like that. And I think it's that ethos, that cheeky ethos that we sort of try to play on. And, it's that bold. We try to be bold, but not, I think we have a line. We have a line. And I think one of the things that we agreed early on was our tone of voice, and our sort of style. And it did, for the likes of me and Sarah, who haven't come from that's a marketing background or a marketing world, we had to take we've had some great advice. We've had some really, really fantastic advice, and we've had some really fantastic guidance, really. And I think that for us, it took us a little while to sort of nail that tone of voice. But I think one of the things is our strong point, is that we don't have layers of people above us to say, oh, I want to do this. I want to put up a silly picture of Garrett in a dinosaur costume. I don't have to go to, like the MD and get that signed off. And, because I know that other places do, especially in construction, they're very conscious of not saying the wrong thing. I remember this years ago, we had, when I worked for Anderson, we used to have our own company magazine. And one of the photographers was just sent to a job to take loads of really interesting shots. Now, interesting shots for a photographer, they're not going to notice the potential pitfalls of, somebody not wearing a hard hat in the background, or barriers not being around, or the place looking a bit untidy. They won't spot things like that. So there was an obsession to sort of, not put a foot wrong that way. And I think that taking it back to us, if we can be slightly cheeky, make it funny, tongue in cheek, but get people to stop and to read it, that's really what we're about. We are hearing lots of really positive stuff about our marketing, really, really nice stuff. We're hearing from people say, oh, I love that post you did, or it's great to see the dinosaur. Or I think the best one, there was a fintech event, and there's two lads walking around as dinosaurs. So they'd obviously seen us do it at another event, thought, I'll have some of that as well.
Yeah.
And, and I remember even at one of the big events, we had me dressed up as a dinosaur, and some people take to it really, really well. And then one place we went to, they didn't like it at all. Whoa. they kicked me out. They were very close to like just ejecting me completely from the place. So yeah, I suppose the moral in that is you have to know your limits, really. But yeah, in terms of our positioning and our marketing, we've obviously, it's like me teaching people how to suck eggs. I mean, I look at the likes of yourself and, other people, big players in this industry. It's bread and butter for you guys. You have that sort of hero piece that you point towards, but and there's a sort of good structure around that. But for me, what I think works the best is making people smile, making people laugh. I think that's always the sort of head turner, and I always think that if I chuckle at it, then I think other people will chuckle at it. But you have to be really careful and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
what I think is funny is not always very funny. Do you know what I mean? So you have to run it past each other. So me and Sarah, we work very closely and with the other team to sort of like, will this work? Won't that work? But yeah, it's I always used to think marketing was a bit of a dark art, in that it's it was a bit scary at first. It was very scary, but as I say, there's some really good advice, and some fantastic encouragement. And I think that if I think we are moving on rather nicely, I'd say, and yeah, I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, you summarized it very well, and it's all about that. For me personally, that foundational marketing knowledge, and then building on top of that. And what you seem to do is hit the right tones. When I say foundational marketing knowledge, from your perspective, I'm talking about, you're talking about what's the tone of voice and things like that you want to come across, and just simple little things like that can make a huge difference, because not many people get to that stage, or they create a tone of voice and it sits in a cupboard somewhere,
Yeah,
and then they go off and they do all these things that are hugely professional, and
yeah,
come and see us at this exhibition stand, and we're
yeah,
very professional, and get your free diary here, and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And it's it's refreshing to see you in a dinosaur suit. But when you're talking about people copying you, which is a huge compliment in itself, you've got to think that, well, what's the connection there? Because I remember the first time I saw you in the dinosaur suit, and I'm like, oh God, what's this all about? And then speaking to Sarah on the stand and saying, what's the dinosaur thing? And she's saying, well, a lot of things are outdated and are prehistoric that we use. And I'm like, I get it. I love it. And, it's those links which probably other people don't even think about or notice, but because they're linked and because you're so close to the brand voice, it works for you. And where do the ideas come from? Is it topical? Is it just here's a thought, experience? Where do you get your ideas?
Yeah, there's a few places really. I mean, what I know what I don't want, or we, especially myself and Sarah, we know what we don't want. We don't want that like super polished. And I mean, there is a place for those in some organisations. Especially put my old hat on. If I was to be a health and safety advisor, if I were just to be selling to that brand, the health and safety brand, the jovial sort of having a bit of a laugh doesn't really fit. Do you know what I mean? But with SymTerra it does, and I think knowing like I see a lot of sites where they are selling construction or selling to construction people. The best one I say the best is in the worst thing. They had a shot of these lads pouring a column, right? There was not one bit of it was clearly done in another country which doesn't have the same health and safety standards. I had all these ropes and stuff everywhere, and I just thought, there's no way that you can seriously put that up there and think that that's okay. You know what I mean? Because you have to, because I think construction people they're very savvy, and if you do put up a shot of two people that are clearly just actors, pointing at a drawing, going, oh, like this, doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's not real life.
Yeah.
You don't walk around the office or a job with a huge A1 bit of paper looking up at each other, and it's not the real world.
Yeah.
And I think it's that it wouldn't have sold to me. Definitely wouldn't have sold to John and Sarah. So I think, well, if that doesn't work for us, and I just think with stuff like that, it seems so obvious to me, that's those super polished sort of Shutterstock image almost, like Getty images or whatever it is, other images are available.
I'm glad you said
that. So, but yeah, it's I just think with that, just going back to your question, we do have some ideas. We have a bit of an idea boards. Some of them work quite well, and some of them have never seen the light of day. So at Christmas, we were toying with the idea of doing the 12 memes of Christmas.
Right.
It never saw the light of day because I think we ran with it a bit too much, and then we realised, we're just wasting lots of time here. This is not as funny as we think it is.
Yeah.
And there has to be that point where you think, oh, no, actually, this isn't going to work. This is not going to work. But yeah, we as I say, we have a list. We have a sort of like a stock of stuff that we want to point towards. Obviously, we like to keep it. I think if something pops up in the news and it fits to what's going on with us, so the recent WhatsApp news, like over the last 6 months or so, WhatsApp has been in the news, and we like to see ourselves as, well, we're like a professional version of WhatsApp. So that angle of pushing on and saying, look, if using WhatsApp at work is not the thing to do, and explain to them why, that those sort of stuff are absolutely gold to us. But I think it's having the balance of something quite funny that catches your eye, something really relatable, but also the biggest thing for me, and I think the biggest winner, and also the one that I like doing the most, is the stories, is the case studies. I think those to me are, I think from my understanding, that's what people want to see. They want to hear how other people are using SymTerra. They want to see how other people are using SymTerra. So going to visit sites, getting people talking and explaining how they're using a product, that's absolutely gold. And again, to go back to what you're saying before, you can't pay an actor to go, yeah, I really love SymTerra, because it's just not going to work. You need normal people saying this. You need to hear it from people's mouths. And so, yeah, I mean, but there's been a lot of mistakes made along the way. I mean, if you look at our TikTok, I was obsessed with cracking TikTok. I wanted to make a viral video, and I did one about like National Sandwich Day or something like that, and it was just, I think because we're new, we can sort of try lots of things without the worry of it going wrong, or without the worry of getting told off, really. And it's that, I think we like to throw lots of things out, see what sticks, and then sort of go with that.
I think one thing that screams you've got it bang right is the fact that you said previously that, like, you're linking the product essentially, or the service to your marketing and vice versa, in that you want it to be accessible, you want it to be simple to use, you want people to just pick it up and use it because it is that simple. And that's what you've done with your marketing, by way of, I'm not saying it's simple, but what I'm saying is that you just keep it open and you keep it accessible to people, and it's not polished, and it doesn't look like it's cost 40 grand for a photo shoot on a site that isn't really a site, etc., etc. And it's that link between the two that I think works really well. With that in mind, obviously using data and information, trying to get that across isn't that sexy, if you like. No, well, to some people it is, but it depends who you are, and no, we're not judging anybody's character here on this podcast at all. If numbers are your thing, happy days.
Definitely.
But how do you make the practical, the unglamorous look sexy and have that appeal?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, well, I think that with our product, it's quite interesting because we are, like you say, we're sort of a practical piece of tech. We're up against massive companies who have huge budgets and massive marketing teams, and their products are like a spaceship type VR headset where the user puts it on and it shows them how to put two bits of pipe together, or they can click around and see a drawing up on a column, and or there's other bits of tech which have like cameras on the hard hats and bits and pieces. Now these are all very impressive. That's nice, but you're not going to find them on jobs in your backyard. You're not going to find them on a normal construction job. You're not going to have that. Imagine if I turn up where on my old job and say, "Right, lads, there's a 40 grand helmet here. You're gonna put this on. It's gonna revolutionise you." You get laughed out of it. And I think that my point is that there's this sort of there's tech out there and there's products out there that they fit for very, very niche jobs, i.e. these mega projects where your HS2s and all these huge jobs where that sort of stuff will fit in. And I think that's a very small part of the industry where those sort of products will fit in, because generally what I believe, and from my own experience, is that you've got the majority of the workforce that just needs something reliable, they need something easy, and they need, something simple. So whereas they would traditionally fill out a form on a piece of paper or have to carry loads of bits and pieces around, method statements, this, that, and the other. But now they have that in one easy place, and you let them know that it's not the bells and whistles. It's not that sort of tech that really is massively disconnected from the normal workforce. I think that's the magic, really, because there's only so many ways that I can sort of make our form builder look absolutely fantastic, because it's not like an AI chat GPT sort of carry on. It doesn't do that. What it is it's just normal tech for normal people, and I think that in itself, if you lean into the product is nice and simple, and it's made for everybody to use. I think I think that's the thing that we do well. And then you say unglamorous tech look sexy. Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, really, because it's not. I think SymTerra has always been designed to be that piece of kit that anybody can pick up and use. And I think that one of our great success stories ever since I've been here was one of our early users was a chap called George. And when we were onboarding with the company, and there was sort of early discussions about this chap George, and said that he was that guy from the team that if you can get George on board, then everybody else will fall. And I didn't have that much dealings with him in terms of training. There was a little bit, but he took the product away, and he was like, very sort of a technophobe. I think he wouldn't mind me sharing, but he got involved. He saw how easy it was, and then through that, and ever since, he's been our biggest user. He's the first. Nice. He keeps hitting these goals. He's first person to hit 1,000 smart notes all on his own. Then 2,000, and most recently, he's on over 4,000. He's miles away from anybody else. And the point of that is that it's something useful, it's something practical that he's just got on with, and he's just picked up and used. Because I think one of the greatest things that we've had recently is our offline mode. So you don't always have to be connected to the internet to complete a form. I think that was a big win for us, really. And it's those things that you're not going to blow anybody away. It's not going to change the world because it's super sexy. But what it is it's practical, it's usable, and therefore it sticks with people. And I think that's the point, and that's what we try and get over in our marketing, is that it's we're here. And I think one of the biggest things on our tone of voice is we lean into that. You know, I think what's the word that we use in it? Trust us. You know, that's what we like to say is that trust us. We've been there. You know what I mean? We've
Yeah.
got it. You know, we have this experience. Me, John, and Sarah. We've been there. We've done it. You know, and I think that's the bit that a lot of other people are missing because, as I say, I've gone to lots of shows and seen lots of other salespeople, and they've got no experience. They're in the same space, but they've got no
Yeah,
experience of site. You know, they've never been on a site in their life. They've never actually worked a day, and you know that's not a disservice to them. But what they're missing is that link with the customer.
for
You
sure.
know, the link with the customer, and I think that's what we try and portray is that we've been there, we've done it, and that in itself is how we like to think we're winning people over.
Nice, and that's a really good way of bringing on to kind of the last thing I want to talk about, really. And our minds can easily be drawn to technology and the products and the services that the advances that are happening in those areas. You know, AI, metaverse, blockchain,
Mhm.
etc., etc. And it's easy to go down that rabbit hole as well as just seeing those as technology and what they can do, not just tomorrow, but like today and the now. But when you actually think about technology, it's as much about the people as it is about the technology, especially within construction. As you rightly said, people still buy from people.
Yeah.
And that's more apt than in most industries, I think. But for you and SymTerra, how much is it about the people behind the technology, and how much does that influence your marketing output?
Oh, massively. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's massively so. I think that what you said there about about AI. I think that it's really interesting. There's this common misconception at the moment that AI is going to come in and solve all the construction problems with those aforementioned silly helmets and bits and pieces like that. But ChatGPT can't throw up a scaffold. Do you know what I mean? And that's been pointed out many times. It's funny linking with marketing. I think that a lot of people. I think ChatGPT has won the marketing employee of the month for many companies up and down all over the world. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's for us. It is that real story, and I think one of the things that is so interesting about SymTerra is that, and one of the reasons that I've sort of I feel quite familiar here is that it's because it's the same as working on site. Because on site, you work as a team, you've got this common goal that you're working towards, you all help each other. And it's very much like what we do at SymTerra here. We're all there to help each other. Each of us has our own little strengths and weaknesses. Definitely, I've many weaknesses, but we all help each other out, and that's our sort of main ethos. And I think that with us, we do lean on our each of our backgrounds, and that heavily influences what we like to put out in terms of our
Mm,
marketing. Because if we can capture the interests of ourselves, because we were the people that, if you think about it, us in SymTerra, me, John, and Sarah, we're trying to sell to me, John, and Sarah, because
mm,
we're trying to sell to the people that were in those positions. So I think that massively influences what we're trying to put out there. We know that we're trying to sell to people who are just like ourselves. As I say,
mm.
me, John, and Sarah, we were all three of us in the industry. So we know that if we can capture our attention, we can put ourselves in their mindset quite easily. So I think we are in a good position where that we can use ourselves as practical examples
Yeah.
and effectively sell to ourselves. And it is an industry where people buy from people.
Fantastic. I think that's a great way to end it there, people buy from people, because it is technically true, except Amazon, which they're not in construction. Answer that one.
Yeah.
Well, that's convenient, so we'll let them have that one. But Garrett, thank you so much for your time. It's been really insightful, interesting, an absolute pleasure for me to talk to you. Huge fan of SymTerra and what you do from the tech and from a marketing perspective. So thank you so much for sharing your story.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for always being such a good advocate, and again, thank you for having me on. And yeah, I'm just a big fan of your work and everything you do. And I've not, everybody that that I know that knows you's got massively good things to say about you, which is really kind. And yeah, you're an absolute gent. Fair play to you.